LSU football is back on the field. Football school is happening.
Woo!
Coach Ogeron will be here tomorrow. It's his 59th birthday today. And last week, everybody was talking about the conversation that Myles Brennan shared with Cody Worsham from the LSU digital media department that is up online at the Hey Fightin' podcast that Worsham, of course, authors during the football season and put special content up throughout the offseason. That was a good one. If you haven't listened to it, I'd imagine that was pretty a listened product, as last week we talked all about it here on Off the Bench, and Worsham is now with us here on ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Alexandria. Cody, good morning. How are you?
What's up, fellas? Doing well. How are y'all?
What did you learn in that conversation with Myles that you haven't already known since he's been on campus for 4 years?
What did I learn? I learned that I think he's ready. I think more mentally. I think physically he's ready. We talked about his weight early, and just sitting down with him, that was the first thing I noticed. He's definitely bulked up, and he's thicker, and that's always been the concern with him. So we can put that to bed.
Yes.
I love that you started. We started on the weight.
Thank you.
And in the podcast, you open with like a preface about like, okay, we need to never talk about this again.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put it to bed.
Yes.
I didn't even talk with him about this. Like, we just kind of sat down and started talking before we recorded. I was like, how weird is it that everyone wants to talk about your weight? He's like, it's pretty weird. Like, it's kind of – I was like, yeah, I'm just imagining if, like, every time I talked to somebody, they were asking me how much I weighed, how awkward that would be. So I did put that on the podcast. Thanks for listening, T-Bob. And I'll put it out there now. Just don't ask him about it anymore. He's good. He's at a solid 220, not going up from there. It's not going down from there. He's in a good spot. So physically he's ready. But I think more than anything, mentally he's ready. He talked about just the things he learned from Joe and in terms of preparation and how to get ready for a season and get ready for a game. And I think that's the biggest thing. The one thing that I learned is how hard it was for him the first couple of years, and especially that first year. T-Bob, you probably understand this because you've been through it, but basically he graduated high school. He had one day to pack up all his stuff, and then he showed up at LSU.
Yeah. And
every freshman goes through that, and it's difficult, but he was basically thrown right into the mix of a quarterback competition. And the number of guys that can handle that, the demands of learning at that time a Matt Canada offense with all these shifts and motions, and he's never played under center. He's played in a more simplified high school shotgun offense, getting into workouts, needing to put on weight, getting adjusted to school, getting adjusted to life away from home, doing your laundry for the first time. All those things, the number of people that can handle that, especially the quarterback position, is very, very few. There aren't many people that can handle that. And so I think Myles, he was basically thrown into the fire. He was thrown in the deep end of the pool. He had to learn how to swim. And the irony is that now he's had this time to develop. Like, he showed up thinking, man, I'm not going to have any time to develop. Well, now he's had that time to develop. I think mentally he's figured out where he needs to be, how to prepare, the kind of reps he needs to put in, the leadership he needs to provide. And then physically he's gotten there as well, not just with his weight, but with learning how to put some touch on throws and, not trying to gunsling everything and kind of getting his body to where it needs to be. So, yeah, I think he's ready. That's the biggest thing I learned.
I have never gotten the feel that he was going to leave LSU. He is pretty emphatic in saying that he's always been committed. Did you get a feel that he's ever been close to transferring?
I don't think close, no. I think it probably popped in his mind at times, especially when, you go into the 2018 season and you're expecting to compete for the starting job, if not win the starting job. And then this guy from Ohio State shows up and you go through a fall battle with him and you don't win it. I think at that point, it would only be human. It would only be natural to kind of think about your options at least. I don't know that Myles spent a whole lot of time doing that, though. I think he's passionate about LSU. I think this is where he wanted to be. I think Coach O had always been very honest with him about the kind of quarterback they believed that he could be. And he's pretty realistic. He's pretty honest with his evaluations of himself. And I think he probably realized, look, this guy's in a better spot than me right now. He's more advanced than me in every sense of quarterback play. So, I can either pout or I can transfer or not to equate those two because it's different situations for every guy. But, my options are to sit here and mope, to look elsewhere, or to just accept it and try to get better. And I think that's what he did. And I asked him about that. I was like, was that hard? Because, just as a human, as this guy that's been through similar stuff like that athletically, like it's, people say the right things, but to do the right thing is a lot harder. And he said, yeah, it was hard. Like I had to kind of talk to myself. I had to talk myself into it. I had to listen to my parents, but I just made that decision to do that. So I don't think he was ever really close. He may have thought about it, but I think he's been pretty committed from the start.
Yeah, and what that commitment means is that now, Cody, he has the biggest shoes to fill in school history. I liked what he had to say on the podcast. For our listeners, could you give us maybe paraphrase how he addressed that, and what do you think? Is he mentally ready to take on that task of following up on Joe Burrow's 2019 season?
Yeah, so that's what I asked him. I said, look, you're going to get asked a million times this year what it's like to follow in Joe's footsteps. Like, how are you preparing for just that question and also that challenge? And he said, I think he's got the answer down pat, at least in terms of expressing it. He said, look, Joe's gone, and he's not coming back no matter what anyone wants, and I can't beat Joe, so all I can do is be myself and try to take advantage of my opportunity. So that's the right answer to say. The biggest thing is going to be how he, in my opinion, handles failure. How do you handle a bad game or a bad quarter or a bad half? Do you let the enormity of the situation settle in and say, man, like last year we had the best quarterback in college football history, and here I am stinking it up. Like, does that thought come across your mind? If it does, how do you deal with it? Can you rebound? And one thing that I've liked about Myles from the times that I've seen him in scrimmages, when he's gone in games, I think he's pretty resilient. I think he's got the right mentality for a quarterback. He has an element of that gunslinger attitude where he's gonna fire it in there. But the moments that I've seen when he's made a mistake, maybe in a scrimmage or in a practice when they're going through him here, if he can be resilient, I think he can. I think he's got the right mindset for that.
Talking to Cody Worsham here on Off the Bench, 105, 100.3, 94.7 ESPN. An excellent follow on any social media at Cody Worsham, digital media reporter for LSU Athletics. Does great work. Check out the Hey Fightin' podcast on podcast stores. You can hear that full sit down with Myles Brennan. But Cody, the entire team hit the practice field. Football school is in effect. Walkthroughs, starting lineups. What are you most excited for? What have you heard from over the weekend?
Yeah, I hadn't heard too much. Got out of town this weekend for the daughter's birthday, so I can't report.
Hey, congrats, man! How old?
Yeah, she's 3.
Wow.
I feel, man, it's crazy. Time flies. Yeah, not much. What am I excited about? I'm excited about obviously Myles and some of the offensive guys and the running back spot. I'm excited to see if John Emery can take the next step. I'd heard a lot of good things about him from the spring and just his maturity, the whole eye surgery thing and his vision improving, catching the football. We saw his physical ability last year, so I'm excited to see what he can do in a very talented running back room with 2 other guys, and Chris Curry and Ty Davis-Price, who we know what they can do as well. So I'm excited about that. Defensively, I'm interested in the defensive end spot and sort of that shift from 4-3 to from 3-4 to 4-3, because it's going to move some guys around. Where does a Neil Farrell fit in? Does a TK McClendon, does a Phillip Webb, a BJ Ojolari, how do they step in? That's kind of the one spot on defense that to me kind of has my eye, because I know people are looking at linebacker. I'm not worried about linebacker. I think Damone Clark's going to be awesome. I think that they've got guys there that can step in, and whether it's graduate transfer or whether it's guys stepping up to the next spot, I feel good there. Just kind of interested to see what happens at the edge rush spot, because that's going to be important in this new defense. But I'm also excited to see what that defense looks like. I talked to Jacoby Stevens last week, and that'll be out on the podcast soon. And he talked about just how much more attacking it is, and we keep hearing that. The Dave Aranda defense was more about alignment, assignment, filling your gap, being solid. But it sounds like this Bo Pelini defense is going to be more, dictating to the offense, more attacking, getting after it a little bit more, and that's exciting to me. I'm interested to see what that looks like.
Cody, we here on Off the Bench are the conductors of the Liam Shanahan hype train. Is Liam Shanahan the best center in the SEC?
He might be the best center in the world, regardless of level, NFL.
Remington Award watch list.
Hey, only one with a Boston Red Sox World Series ring. Think about that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He got that for the groundskeeping deal, as Brody Miller wrote about for the Athletic. So, yeah, look, I'm excited about him too. I like. It's funny how an offensive line, one addition, can kind of lead to all these
everything.
other dominoes falling into place. And I feel like that's what Liam can be. He can be that domino that allows Jason Hines to move to guard and give you a little bit of depth as a swing guy as well. It feels like he was kind of that missing piece. So we'll see. I mean, this is obviously the time of year where he's going to excel, like when it's all mental reps and it's all about learning the system and, putting that Harvard degree to use. Well, the physical aspect is where we're going to have to see. Can he stand up to the physical grind of the SEC? And the coaches obviously think he can, and he's certainly been very, very productive at the college level. So that's going to be the transition part. So this was the easiest part of the season for him, I think, was learning everything and showcasing his brain basically. But now we got to see what he does, lined up across from Tyler Shelvin and lined up across from some of the monsters in the SEC that he's going to face. And I think he'll do well. But and if he does do well, it's going to be huge for the offense. But we'll see.
Hey, Fighting podcast author Cody Worsham. You can check out that conversation with Myles Brennan from last week, which we touched on in the earlier part of the conversation. Orgeron turns 59 today. You covered the program under Myles. You have worked alongside Orgeron at LSU since he's been in direction. He's going into year 4. Can you talk about the culture that he has created within that building that seems like every day everybody wants to show up to work at?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Coach O is how he empowers everyone around him. And that's from the bottom up. That's from us in the creative department, working with Derek Kanamsky, where they empower us to make cool stuff and try new things and take risks. That goes to the assistant coaches and the rest of the staff. He really does let those guys do their job. He trusts them to do their job. And if he doesn't think they're good enough, he finds someone who is good enough. And he's done a pretty good job of finding people who are good enough. So I think that's the first thing. I think the other thing that stands out to me is not only his authenticity, but just his mindset that he's developed. And I think it's a mindset that you can only develop from failing. I think when he failed at Ole Miss, I think he learned so much and realized what he wanted to do different next time. And so what I think of is the day after the national championship game, obviously everyone stayed up late and had a good time and celebrated. And it's 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, and he's got to go to the press conference across the street. And he's already talking about, not during the press conference, on the walk over there, talking with Michael Bonnet and Derek Kanamsky about how we got to win another one. We got to get ready for next year. It's on to next year. Like, I'm sitting here still reveling in the national championship. It still hasn't settled in. And here's Coach O talking about, not in front of the cameras just to say it, but because he really believes it, we got to move on. We got to get ready for next season. And to me, like, I was sitting there thinking, man, this guy he's cut from a different cloth. Like, he's got the right approach. And that's why I have all the faith in the world that LSU is going to continue to have success. I expect more national championships because he does, and because he's not resting on his laurels at all. He may be hungrier than ever, which is pretty scary to think of, because he certainly came in with a lot of hunger at LSU. So I'm excited. The program's in great hands, and he sets a good example for us in the creative department. The way that he works, it inspires us to work hard. But he represents Louisiana so well. I'm excited.
Cody Worsham, digital media reporter for LSU Athletics and a great friend of our station here at ESPN Baton Rouge, checking in with a recap from his conversation last week on Brennan and some of the outlook to watch out for LSU football going into another season under Coach O. Thank you as always. Have a good week.
All right, guys. Thanks.
We'll close at hour 2 next.